Welcome back. In this new edition of the OBG Corner, editorial manager of the PNG report, Marco Venditti, speaks to Mark Baker of ANZ PNG.
Good evening and welcome back to the show. My name is Marco and this is the OBG Corner. Our guest tonight is Mark Baker. He's the managing director of ANZ, which is the third largest lender in Australia, and the second in PNG, with a long history since 1910. Mark Baker also has a long experience internationally. He has worked in Saudi Arabia, in Bahrain, in Hong Kong, in India, and now in PNG. He has specialized over the year in services to the natural resources sector, therefore we think he's the right man for this country. Mark, good evening. Thank you for joining us tonight. The ANZ has just recently published the first quarterly business survey in PNG. Not the first of its kind, but the first time in PNG. Can you tell us more about the concept of this product and what were the results of the findings of the report? Yeah.
Thanks, Marco. It's great to be here. What we're trying to do with this survey, and as you say, it's quarterly, first time we've done this in Papua New Guinea, is really take a pulse of business in the country, and we'll repeat this quarterly so that over a period of time, as we get a larger database of companies and more repeats of the actual survey, we'll get a real sense of where people are seeing the economy at any one point in time.
Okay. What were the findings of the report for the first time in PNG?
Well, I think before I get into the findings, it's probably worth just giving your viewers a little bit of information about how we did this.
Okay,
so,
the methodology of that.
Yeah, so what we did was we surveyed 73 companies,
okay.
And there were 32 questions in the survey, which was done online last month. And the companies we chose were from a variety of sectors. They were also geographically spread across Papua New Guinea.
Okay.
And in addition to that, they were also a mix of importers and exporters, so a pretty good balance. We really asked some questions which went across three areas: how their business is doing now compared to yesterday, how they think their business will do in 12 months' time, and how they see things 5 years and 5 years plus. So the findings were quite interesting and perhaps no surprise to people, but right now companies are doing it tough was really the message that we got from them. When you look out 12 months, actually there's a level of cautious optimism amongst companies, and when you go 5 years out, there's really quite a lot of optimism from the people who responded to the survey.
I see. So why is it tough at the moment for PNG?
We thought about this actually as these results came back in. I think the view we have is part of this is really related to the structural change which is going on in the economy right now. We've been talking about this transition for PNG between the LNG project having been completed and all of the impetus which came with construction, to the fact that we haven't yet seen the real benefits really flowing through to the extent that they certainly will in the future. So we are still in this transition phase. I think if you overlay that with the fact that the global economy is still under some pressure, when you combine those two things and think about what PNG exports in terms of commodities and the relationship that has all the way through the economy, that's probably why we think that's really underpinning this issue we've got at the moment.
The reason why. At the end of the day, though, the man on the street wants to see also those differences,
yeah.
and that income that might come into this country soon. When will they see that? Because at the end of the day, the money is trickling down into the economy, but people are not seeing that difference, and everybody's expecting that. So,
I mean, it will come without a doubt. I mean, I think Papua New Guinea is in a fantastic position. Okay. When you look at this country, particularly 3 years out and beyond, the amount of potential for the country is just extraordinary. And I think, as I've heard people say, Papua New Guinea has what the world wants, and yes, right now I think it's difficult for the man on the street to see, well, what does that mean for me with the kina in my pocket? But with some patience and with the things that we're seeing around the Sovereign Wealth Fund being established and just other structural issues which are being dealt with, over time this will come through, and I think we'd be sitting here in 5 years' time having a very different conversation.
Well, you and I are Europeans, and we wish we could count on that sort of income coming into our...
If you're sitting in Europe right now, you wish you'd be in Papua New Guinea.
Absolutely. I was interested in one of the findings of the report where it says that short-term pain and long-term gain. In a way, that seems to be the story about Papua New Guinea all the time. You know, people are always saying, well, the future is going to be better, the future is going to be better, not the present. Is it also sort of a cultural thing, you think, in a way that the Papua New Guineans are always expecting perhaps the future to be better than what the present is?
I mean, I think everybody wants the future to be better than it is presently,
well, that's true.
Wherever you're from.
Yeah.
But I think this is different in many ways. I know people have heard that before as well. But the reason I think it's different is when you look at what's going on, we've got all of what Papua New Guinea has, and historically always has had, whether it be gold, copper, nickel, tuna, coffee, the list goes on. And then you overlay it with a gas project the size of what has just been executed, and a second one coming, and a third train on the existing project. That's what's different this time round. So with a bit of patience and continued stability, which is important, right. That's what we'll really see things come through in coming years. Yeah.
So you're saying there is no silver bullet, just hold on to it, it's going to come.
That's exactly it, which
Absolutely.
is, so there's some short-term issues right now, structurally,
yes.
where when you have a GDP of around $12 billion and you then plug in a $20 billion project,
right.
there's going to be some issues that need to be dealt with, and I think that's part of structurally what we need to work through, and that will certainly ease over time.
Absolutely. At the beginning of the year, there were a lot of speculation about GDP growth, and in 2015, we heard numbers. Obviously, the double digit seems to be the key word, but numbers are around 20%. But since the oil has dropped dramatically, those numbers have been reduced consistently. From ANZ point of view, what do you think is going to be realistically the GDP growth this year?
I mean, we've still got forecasts, I mean, around GDP growth in the double digits, but I think the important thing around that number is that's a year-on-year percentage growth. It's actually the long-term norm is the one to look at. And we have numbers of 5 to 6% as ANZ internally on that number, which, again, if you're sitting in Europe or many countries,
I'll sign to that.
You would sign up for that immediately. So we still haven't really changed in that way. I think the important thing, yes, oil prices have put a lot of pressure on projects and on economics. But what we're looking at with the LNG project is a project which is very, very robust in terms of the numbers and the efficiency, if you like, or the return that project actually generates. So, and when you look at the big majors, they look through these cycles. They don't look at these short-term ones. They've got a horizon which sees through these cycles which we're in at the moment for oil prices.
They take it for granted, basically,
Absolutely.
Essentially. Let's come to the risks, because it's not only a rosy story here. No. There are risks identified with doing business in PNG. I think it's competition, regulatory framework, and liquidity, which somehow affect also the bank. So what can we say about that?
So these were the top three that the survey came back with. When we actually looked into the responses in a bit more detail, what we found was the first one, which was competition, and the third one around liquidity, there was a bit of overlap because there were people answering within competition that it was competition for dollars, or competition for currency. So that, when you combine it with liquidity piece, is really talking quite loudly to the pressure that the companies are feeling right now around getting hold of foreign currency, which we know is an issue. And I'll come back to that in a moment. The second point, which was raised, which was on the regulatory framework piece. Now, that actually was when we delved into that, was more around security, law and order, and corruption. So these are three factors which have been issues within PNG for some time. So nothing really new on those. But if I can go back to the liquidity piece. What customers are facing right now, we see it every day, is the ability to get hold of dollars. And I think what is important to understand is that the kina as a currency is a thinly traded currency. The Australian dollar has got a lot of deep liquidity and don't have the thinly traded issues that perhaps the kina does have. What we're seeing at the moment is a shortage of dollars. And that's really a function of when you look at where dollars come from, it's from the exporters. So gold, copper, nickel and the like. All of those commodity prices have fallen over the last 12 months. Volumes have also come down as well. So naturally there's less dollars in the market. On the import side, where people want the dollars, that demand is as high as it's been. So there's a mismatch. Now, the question I often get asked is how long do we think that will last for? And that's very, very difficult to actually put a number to. But it will get better. because when you look at how the economy will change over the coming years, there will be a natural flow of dollars coming into the economy. So we're in a position right now, the short-term pain, where companies are having to work through this, through payment terms with their suppliers, these kind of things. But over the medium term, this will get better, but difficult to put an actual date on it.
Mark, thank you very much. I hope this is not the last time we'll have you on the show, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
And that's all we have for you tonight. For more business news, so if you would simply like to view this episode again, visit EMTV online at www.mtv.com.pg, or to join the conversation, like our page on Facebook for daily business news, or follow us on Twitter at BusinessPNG using the hashtag BusinessPNG. Until next week, have a pleasant evening. I'm Leanne Gerari, and this is Business PNG.